Hi students, today we are here with a new lesson. It is a small poem written by Shirley Tolson. The name of the poem is Photograph. Before entering to this poem, let me introduce about our writer. Shirley Tolson was born on 20th May 1924 in Hanley-on-Thames, England as the daughter of Douglas Oswald Dixon and Marjorie Brown. She had a huge passion on writing and was greatly influenced by her father, who was a writer too. She secured a BA on literature from Brockenhurst College in London in the year 1953. In this poem, she recalls her mother and her memories while looking at a childhood photograph when her mother was 12 years old also. She has been deceased 12 years ago and she cannot explain her grief on her mother's loss. The poem is a tribute to the poet's mother. She is looking at an old photograph of her mother which has a frame of cardboard. The picture has three girls, in which the middle one is the oldest and tallest. It is her mother when she was 12 years old or so. Beside her on both sides are her two cousins, namely Betty and Dolly, who are holding her hands and are younger than her. They went for paddling on a beach holiday. Her uncle took the photograph then. The poet could not help but notice her mother's sweet face. The sea touched her terribly transient feet, which depicted that she changed over the years and the sea remained the same. After 20 or 30 years, her mother would laugh at the photograph. She would make the poet look at the photograph and tell her how their parents would dress them up for the beach holiday. The beach holiday was her mother's favorite past memories, while her laugh was the poet's favorite memory. Both of them lost something which they cherished a lot and yet cannot live that moment again. Those sweet moments were memorized now. Now the poet's mother had been dead for the past 12 years, which is the same number as of her age when the photograph was taken back then. She cannot express the grief that she has from her mother's absence. Now we are entering to the poem. I will read the poem and I will explain the poem. The cardboard shows me how it was when the two girls' cousins went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hands. What do you mean by paddling? Paddling means walking. In these lines, the poet is looking at an old photo album which is made up of cardboard. In the picture, there are three girls who are walking on the beach holding each other's hands. The girl in the middle is the tallest and oldest. The other two girls on each side are younger than her. The girl in the middle is the poet's mother. She is around 12 years old when the picture was taken. Now we are coming to the second stanza. Fifth to ninth line we will be reading. All three stood still to smile through their hair. All three stood still to smile through their hair. And the uncle with the camera, a sweet face, my mother's that was before I was born. And the sea which appears to have changed less, washed their terribly transient feet. What is the meaning of transient? Short term or temporary. In the above lines, the poet describes how the photograph was taken. Her mother's uncle took the photograph and all told them to stop and pose. All three of them left their wet hair open and smiled at the camera. The poet's attention is drawn towards his mother's face, which is described as a sweet face. The photograph was taken long before the poet was born. The poet calls their feet terrible transient as they were so young by then and now they had grown older. On the other hand, the sea which touched their feet has changed less. Coming to the next lines, that is 10 to 13 the lines. Some 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot. See Betty and Dolly, she would say, and look how they dressed us for the beach, the sea holiday. What do you mean by snapshot? Snapshot means photograph. After 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the photograph. She would tell me to look at her cousins, Betty and Dolly, and how their parents would dress all three of them up for the beach. They would have planned to take a photograph beforehand. Coming to next lines, was her past mind in her laughter both rare with the labored ease of loss? What is the meaning of rare? Ironic or mocking. The poet recalls the sea holiday was her mother's favorite moment from the past, while the poet's favorite moment from the past was her mother's laughter. Both the women would think about those past memories which they cannot live again. They tried their best to adjust to what they lost. Now we are coming to the last lines, 16 to 19 the lines. Now she's been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived, and of their circumstances there is nothing to say at all. It's silence, silences. What is the meaning of silences? A complete absence of sound. In the above lines, the poet says that her mother died 12 years ago, the same age her mother was in the photograph. Whenever the poet thinks of her mother's death, she cannot explain what effect she has of her mother's death. Death has silenced her mother, which has also left her speechless. Here, the poem is completing, and you know that children, this is a very small and very interesting poem. We have learned the poet is remembering her mother, one who died years back. I hope that you understood this poem. Also, you learned the poem and you have to learn the question answer of the poem. Thank you.